Go ahead, Mr.
I'll call the Board of Review for 2024 in session. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. John Thomas Azier,
Here.
Mr. Ron Antonow,
Here.
Mr. Eric Drzewiecki,
Here.
Mr. Jesse Sharp.
Here.
Fantastic. We have 4 members present, and that is a full quorum.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes.
Which was from last meeting, so
Yeah.
we actually approved the last meeting's minutes last year.
Okay. The next thing on the agenda is I would approve the election of chairperson. Do we have a motion to appoint chairperson?
Motion
Really quick,
for
Chair, I
Tom.
think you skipped past, apologize, I think you skipped past the approval of the agenda. That was C.
Oh, approval of the agenda, yeah.
Thank you.
Next thing would be approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, now we'll have an election of the chairperson and vice chairperson.
Motion to appoint or approve of Mr. Azier as chairman.
That doesn't need a second.
Oh, I know.
And so, I'll just call the roll. Mr. Azier?
Yes?
Just give me 1 second. Mr. Antonow?
Aye.
Mr. Drzewiecki?
Aye.
Mr. Sharp?
Aye.
That is 0 for Mr. Azier.
Now we'll have election of the vice chairperson.
I can do it again if it occurs.
Okay, so I have a nomination for Mr. Drzewiecki. I'll call the roll. Mr. Azier?
Aye.
Mr. Antonow?
Aye.
Mr. Drzewiecki?
Aye.
Mr. Sharp?
Aye.
That is all 4 in favor of Mr. Drzewiecki, which I keep butchering your name, I'm so sorry.
You're actually closer than most, so no worries.
Okay, that's good. All right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Azier, take it away.
Now we'll have the presentation on the adoption of procedures, governing review process, and new laws affecting the proceedings. I assume we go to the our attorney for that?
That is correct.
Sure,
Okay.
would you like to do them all at once under F? That's fine. The documents start at page 5 in the packet. They're, the procedure for waiver is unchanged, same as the sworn telephone and sworn written testimony. And then also just verifying that we have the ordinance, which is F4, and I don't have any additional information to present on new laws as it relates to procedure.
Okay. That was nice and quick.
Yeah, you can adopt them all. You can do.
Okay.
We actually have a new law that we could discuss.
I'm sorry, what did Russ say?
A new law?
Was there a new law?
Right. There's a new law that impacts us, yes. Act 12 was passed this year, which actually exempts all personal property. So,
I don't know who's talking.
That's Russ. That's Russ from Swan. So, it's on. Russ,
yeah,
can you just identify yourself for the purposes of the meeting?
okay, sorry about that. Yeah, this is Rush Schwant, Green Bay City Assessor. As I said, Act 12 was passed earlier this year, or later last year, that was effective for 1/1/2024, which exempted all remaining personal property that was accessible by us and other entities. So what we had to do in cases of buildings on leased land, such as Walmart and those places over there on tribal land, was to shift them over to a real estate thing. So we have some parcels that have just an improvement value and no value on the land because it's exempt leased land. We also have towers, cell towers that have their own parcel number too, because in some instances, the towers themselves were listed as personal property. Now they're listed as real estate because of the way the laws are written. So there's some cases where you'll see parcels that have no land value but have an improvement value. And that's the reason for that. But it was fairly impactful on us. I mean, if we were to be in an area that had no ordinance that had I think a monthly leasing fee or a payment fee for the cell or mobile homes. Now, we would have to go through and assess all those mobile homes again as real estate with separate parcels. So it has been a struggle for some of the communities around that have like campgrounds. There's a lot of issues with that and so on. So we're lucky here that the majority of our property was already listed as real estate that was actually real estate. So I guess that's the only real change that we had. It was fairly big change because we've been looking at pushing the personal property away from being taxable for probably just after I started being assessor over 40 years ago. So it's been a long haul, but I'm sure the people in the office can tell you they don't miss it whatsoever.
Okay.
And that's all I have on that.
Okay. Now we'll have a statement and verification by the clerk, city clerk.
Yes, thank you. Let me just get there. One second.
Russ is on the room.
What, do we need a motion to?
Yes, I
Yeah.
apologize. We could, for the last section that we were on, we should do a motion to adopt.
Yes.
All right, I move that we
Okay.
adopt items F1 through 4 collectively.
Okay, so.
I'll second.
Just give me 1 second to get back there, I'm sorry. I moved away. Okay, so I have first motion by Mr. Kraswicki and a second by Mr. Asia.
Right.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Asia.
Okay, do you want to call the roll on that?
Okay, sure. Mr. Asia,
Aye.
Mr. Antonello, Mr. Drizwicki,
Aye.
Mr. Sharp.
Aye.
That is 4-0. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll have a statement of verification by the city clerk.
Okay. Just get there. Okay, so, yes, we do have, the members who have met the mandatory training. Mr. Asia, graciously volunteered to take the training, so we have met our requirement. The second.
By the way,
Yes,
I would, has everybody taken the training?
so Mr. Sharp has taken it, you've taken it. I don't know, Mr. Drizwicki?
I volunteered a couple times second. So.
Okay, well, if you haven't
Yeah.
taken it, please take it next year.
Okay.
Be
I-
volunteer when she asks you.
Let me just make a note of that I will be sure to ask
Yeah.
The other two members next year. So yes, we've met that requirement, and if you want to, I don't know, do you want to take all these items up at once? Do we need a motion to? Okay.
No, just go ahead and.
Okay, sounds good. And then we did have the assessor's office file the annual assessment report, which is over there. We will review that in a moment. And the roll. And also, I did receive a sworn statement by the assessor, from the assessor, and that will be in the documents that I'll retain for board and review.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to accept the statement of verification of the city clerk.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, thank you.
Call the
Mr.
roll.
Asia,
Aye.
Mr. Antonello,
Aye.
Mr. Drizwicki,
Aye.
and Mr. Sharp.
Aye.
Thank you, that is 4-0.
Okay. Now we have the annual assessment report. Who's doing that one? Is that our assessor?
So last year it was.
Ross, are you doing it? You're not on.
Oh, there's-
I can give you a rundown of what happened over the past year.
There you go, a nice one.
As you know, every year that we've had in the past, well, since before the reval, the increase in market value has not slowed down. You would think that with the increase in interest rates that it would, but now it's just, there's less people that are going for the house, but there's still, at least 2-3 offers for each house that's being sold. This year we had about 3,300 building permits that we had to go through. And of that increase in new construction for residential was about 34 million. New construction for commercials, 50 million. And these numbers are about double what they were last year for commercial and about the same for residential. Some of the major new construction is the Legacy Hotel, the apartments, Horizon Square Medical, Huron Grove Apartments, and Circle K. So under that Act 12 that I talked earlier, we had just over $22 million in value for buildings on leased land that were shifted from the personal property to the real estate roll. So that's a huge chunk. That was a little bit of work for staff. Only a few landowners record the actual documents that set up a separate parcel. They have that choice. So what in that instance, when they don't record a separate parcel, we have to send the tax bill for that particular improvement to the owner of the land, and then they work it out either through the lease process or some other mechanism. As far as the 23 sales data, which we use to establish our ratio for 2024, we had about 2,700 sales that were reviewed in 23, and of those, 739 were valid residential sales, and those came out to a ratio. Understand, we're only 2 years away from a reval at 100%. Right now, we're showing 80.84%, whereas last year we were about 89%. Commercial sales, we had 87 valid sales of that, and the aggregate ratio for that is 72%. And that's a 13% increase in value over last year. So we've had a lot of activity. If you look at the average property value for a residential home, in 2019, it was 173,000. 2020 was 192,000, which is a 11% increase. 2021 was about 216,000 for another increase of about 12%. During the reval, it was 234,000, which was another 8% increase. And this past year, average residential property is 261.9, which is a 12% increase. So you can see from 2019 to 2023, it went up from 173 to about 262 in value. So when people are upset and they call in and they wonder what's going on, that's the reason. We have to follow the sales in the market that's established. And unfortunately, it hasn't slowed down a whole lot. And in fact, Alex can tell you in the area that's over by Lambeau Field, the area used to be only like 2 blocks away from Lambeau where the impact of the Airbnbs was felt. Now it's stretching way out to probably 5-6 blocks away in every direction. So that hasn't slowed down. We have properties that we're selling for, say, $150,000 back prior to the reval are now selling for pushing $400,000. And this is before they've had any remodeling done or any improvements. So it's good for the city in one regard where the properties are actually adding to our tax base. But on the other hand, the people that aren't selling are seeing increased assessed values. They did in the reval and they will in the next reval just because of the market direction that it's going. So unfortunately, we can't do anything about who lives in the property and relate that back to the taxes they pay. I wish I could, but there's nothing that allows me to. I have to look at where the market is and what it's telling me as far as the values go and adjust accordingly. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any.
Okay. We need to examine the assessment roll. How did we do that last year? Did we send somebody, or do we have it here?
So one of the, yep,
Oh,
it's right over there. So-
Somebody want to go over and kind of, best thing to do is go over there and look for your own property and look and see if everything is okay, and if you need help from, yeah, yeah.
And I can tell you that we did make open book changes, and those are included in that assessment roll that's there for your review.
Okay, so you did make some corrections and calculations then?
Yeah, in between when we sent out notices until now, yes.
Okay, and those have been completed. By the way, thank you for not having East Town Mall come back. I kind of miss them.
There's a few people that I quote unquote miss, but am not totally unhappy that they're not here today, so we'll go with that. That's why there's donuts.
Well, that's, it's really funny how that whole area over there has changed, for,
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Russ.
Yeah.
Russ, how
Yes.
do you figure in, you mentioned around Lambeau Field, I know people who own homes there, and in a year, the property values they buy, the NFL draft, I know people who are making over 20 grand just for their Airbnb for that time. And there are people making that in the town of Village of Bellevue. But when there aren't major events going on, they don't make it, and they don't get that kind of revenue and income. And they wanted to sell their property, but in a year where there's not a Badger Notre Dame game or something like that going on, they just weren't able to sell it when the events disappear.
Right. And honestly, that they pay room tax on when they rent it out as Airbnb.
Correct.
We don't look at those properties as income producing properties because the income stream on those is so erratic for the reasons you stated. We're assessing those based on the sales of the properties that do occur. And they're occurring with that in mind, whether there's, a Badger Notre Dame game or there's the NFL draft and so on. Those values will probably impact the assessments in the next reval, which is scheduled for 2027.
What happens to the-
We'll have a better, yes?
I was just wondering, what happens to the assessed value of the properties around there that aren't, of people that are just living there, that aren't converting those over to B&Bs?
Right. That's one of the things I discussed is the fact that I feel bad for those people that are doing it, but sales that are occurring are for this exact same type of house, those that have not been improved. So according to state law, I look at what the sales were for, what they constituted as far as a property, whether it be mainly 60s ranchers with 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, and a partially finished rec room in the basement. And if those are selling for $400,000, I have no choice but to look at the other similar properties and assess those accordingly during a reval. In between then and now, I don't do anything other than make the improvements for those properties that have changes because of building permits they've taken out or not taken out. I mean, we catch those sometimes where they do some work without permits, and it's always the person that buys that property that takes the brunt of it because we have no other information other than the sales that shows us that the basement was finished off with 2 bedrooms and a full bath and a sauna, and the upstairs was totally gutted with a new kitchen, living room, and a garage door / patio door out to the backyard where they put up a huge viewing area for Packer games. So we aren't doing anything other than following the market, and if the market dictates that those houses that haven't been improved are selling for $400,000, that's where we have to go. And that's the same situation in your neighborhood too, where we've got the waterfront properties that haven't sold for decades, and then we've got people on either side of them are paying, $700,000-800,000 for a house that, in all rights, probably should be torn down. So the people that aren't selling are the ones that are impacted, and until they pass a law that ties income or age or whatever to assessments, I don't have any choice but to value the properties what the market dictates.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you, we had 2 people go over and review the rolls. Did everything look correct?
Looks correct.
No corrections needed to be made or any omissions? Okay, very good. I think that probably covers pretty much everything under the assessment report. I will entertain a motion that we accept.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Please call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Asia?
Aye.
Mr. Antino?
Aye.
Mr. Drzwicki?
Aye.
Mr. Sharp?
Aye.
That passes 4-0.
Okay. We have no one appearing before us today. Do we have any telephone presentations?
None were submitted.
Okay, did we receive any written requests?
So we did receive a request, a notification that there may be a filing from a Mr. Tim Keene, but he did not file any documents. I checked yesterday. I'm
Okay.
actually going to check right now to make sure that he did not file anything this morning.
Okay.
with us. I don't see anything in my inbox, but I need to check one other place. He just notified us that he might file.
Okay.
But if you just give me a moment, I will check my spam folder. Make sure there's nothing in there.
Just for background information on this particular property, this is one of those properties that has a tower on it. And his question when he first called it in was, why the increase? And unfortunately, he did not get the notice that we sent out in the fall because he purchased the property this past March. We sent out letters to all parties that were involved in the personal property change and notified them that the towers would be placed on the real estate. The previous owner got that, did not disclose that apparently at the closing of the property, and he got a notice of assessment earlier this year, obviously, that his property went up, I think, $35,000 or somewhere in that range, and we didn't have a chance to talk to him that soon, so I think once we did talk to him, I think Scott talked to him, he understood what it was for and why, and honestly, I think he paid way more for that property than we'll be having to assess for.
Okay, thank you.
And I can affirm for the board that I do not have any other emails. We also did not receive any documents in the clerk's office 2 hours before,
Okay.
or 48 hours before.
Have we received any notices of direct appeal to the circuit court?
None.
Okay. That pretty much covers the agenda, I believe.
You have to remain in session for 2 hours though, so. on
Do
this
what?
item- I'm sorry, Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
review
On this item,
objection.
We have to remain in session.
Yes, I know we have to remain in session, yeah.
But there's nothing else to consider until probably item J, unless something else
Which
comes
is,
in.
yeah, adjourn, or review objections, yeah. Okay, good. Sit here and enjoy ourselves for another
Hour and a half.
yeah.
Grab
Okay.
a donut.
We can
All right.
probably pause the.
Yeah, I'm going to pause the recording.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, but people can feel free to move about, but the room will be open, and if someone comes in, Mr. Chair, you can ask them what the request is.
I'd just like to say, you guys do.
Okay, try it again.
Russ, can you hear us?
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, so I'm just gonna leave yours on. All right. So. Okay, go ahead.
What is consideration of possible action and notices of intent to file objections?
So if we had had objections offered to us, then we would have considered those notices of intent to file
Okay.
objections. And so we kind of discussed the one that it was a notice of an intent to file objection. We discussed it before, so let me just reiterate that one in this instance. So we did have an email from Mr. Tim Keene, concerned about a cell phone tower that was placed on his property. And he sent an email saying, I would like to notify you that I'm intending to file an objection, but of course he never did. That was the email that he sent. So
Okay.
he never did file an objection, so there was nothing to offer. I believe that the assessor's office had discussed what had happened in that instance with his cell phone tower. It had to do with the sale, and basically him not knowing that the cell phone tower was part of it. And so there's been no objection filed by Mr. Keene, so I think we can move on. from
Okay.
One question,
Yeah.
where is that property located? Oh, okay.
that. Oh,
Oh, okay. 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 Yeah, Russ kind of explained that earlier, I think, so. Okay, and then we don't have any objections to review.
Do not.
Okay, no,
Let me just get there, hold on one second.
we still have a couple more minutes before we can,
We do. Actually, now that we're back live, Mr. Druzwicki, do you want to ask your question again?
Oh, sure. So the question was, has the assessor's office noticed a tapering off of maybe politicizing the assessments or questions like that? I know that when the revals happened, there was a lot of misinformation being shared regarding political motivations for revals when it was really just state mandated. We were at the time where it had to be done. Has there been a lot of that has continued post? I'm just wondering if those efforts then have kind of spilled over and continued, or if it's sort of gone away as the revals are now a thing of the past.
As far as I know and I've heard, I think it's pretty much a thing of the past. We'll still get an occasional query as to why we're doing something. And, on an annual basis, we'll get the person saying, well, you're just trying to raise taxes for the city budget when really it has nothing to do with it. But as far as the politicizing of the reval and so on, that stuff goes away. But I assume that would probably pick up again when we start telling people that the reval for 2027 is next up. So it's just the way things are. People are angry that they think their taxes are going up, and I understand that. And my office has developed a fairly thick skin over the years dealing with that. But that's part of the job. But so far it's been fairly quiet with regards to that part.
Thank you. And I'd say it's definitely an opportunity for us on the board to combat that misinformation as well. Because sometimes there's a couple people saying, yep, Board of Review told me this is not politically motivated. Then it's maybe a phone call you guys aren't getting, and that's a net win for something we can kind of do in our function too if people are kicking around that kind of stuff online. So thank you.
We appreciate that.
I don't know what could be done for information purposes prior to the eval to try to alleviate some of the concerns of people. I think the concern is always my taxes are going up. It's hard to go to the news media because, they got more important things probably to cover than to try to cover that. I don't know, maybe social media. Do you use social media to try to get information out right before eval? Is that something that could be done or something you think might be worthwhile?
Well, we do have a web presence, and when we did send out an informational letter that actually included examples of what would happen with your property taxes if your value went up, your value stayed the same, and based on what the average increase is for that year. We always have stuff on our website with questions. We always encourage people to call in, but the whole issue is that most people don't really look at what's going on until they actually get the notice of assessment, and then it's all crowd speak. And it really, our message kind of gets drowned out a little bit. But we've had a good working relationship with the newspaper and with the news media. So hopefully this next time around they'll understand more and get more used to it. Since we're going to be going forward on a more regular basis, people will hopefully understand that this is something that needs to be done in order to ensure fairness and equity in our assessments. And that's the only reason we're doing it.
Well, I think being through, doing them closer together will help too. When
Yes.
you stretch it out over 10 years or whatever, people forget what happened after the last one, but doing it within 3 years or 4 years or whatever, they kind of remember. you know.
Yes.
So if there's nothing else, we're on to review objections.
Okay, we have no objections to review.
Okay,
Seeing none, hearing none.
so now we're on adjournment.
Does our assessor have anything to say to us before we adjourn?
Well, I do appreciate all that you guys do for us. Goes through a tough year, then coming back and no objections, that's icing on the cake. So, sorry to have you guys have a boring morning here, but hopefully the donuts helped.
Have we ever had a year where we didn't have any? I don't remember one, and I've been here forever.
I recall maybe two, that we've had over the past 25 years.
I mean, usually we'll get one or two commercial at least, you know, maybe not
Right.
private, you know,
Yeah,
residential.
it's been pretty good with that. I mean, I think most of the commercial people, we've had a good working relationship with, so they know to talk to us in a timely fashion. It's those darn tax reps are the ones that are kind of creating problems, but, hopefully they've learned over the years that, you know, it's easier to work with us ahead of time than come to the board review and get embarrassed.
Well, you know, I want to compliment you and your office on taking care of that. You know, if I recall, and we were talking about this with some of your staff, that, you know, some of the more recent residential people that have come before the board, if they had gone to you, would have resolved the issue and wouldn't have to have come before us. So
Yeah,
I
that's
compliment
correct.
you and your office on that. You guys, I think, do a wonderful job, and this year is a good example,
We appreciate that. Thank you.
okay? I think we can, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? Call, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, everybody. Can I put this on
Yes, so,
stop or what?
yep, stop it, yep.